Commander Tyke pressed his clawed hands against the cold metal railing of his command bridge. The massive view screen showed a beautiful blue and green world spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Earth, the final prize that would make him the greatest conqueror in Vorthak history. Behind his flagship, an endless sea of warships stretched into the void. 9,900 vessels, each one bristling with plasma cannons and energy shields. The largest military force ever assembled in the galaxy. Tyke's yellow eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he counted the rows of destroyers, battle cruisers, and assault carriers. 50 million of the Vorthak Empire's finest warriors waited in those ships, their weapons charged and ready. "Status report," Tyke commanded, his voice echoing through the bridge. Lieutenant Bora, her blue-scaled skin reflecting. The bridge lights checked her console. "All battle groups have reached their assigned positions, Admiral. The human homeworld is completely surrounded. They cannot escape." Tyke nodded slowly. The intelligence reports had made this seem almost too easy. Humans were barely capable of traveling between their own planets. Their largest spaceships were crude metal boxes, held together with primitive welding. No energy shields, no antimatter weapons, no quantum communication systems. They were like children playing with sticks while the Vorthak wielded plasma swords. "Have they responded to our arrival?" Tyke asked. "Yes, sir. Multiple communication attempts from various human governments. They seem to want to talk." Bora's voice carried obvious disgust. "Should we respond?" Tyke laughed, a harsh sound that made several bridge officers look up from their stations. "Talk? What is there to discuss? They will surrender or they will die. Those are their only options." The communication officer, a young Vorthak named Sung, raised his hand nervously. "Admiral, they keep broadcasting on multiple frequencies. Something about peaceful intentions and diplomatic solutions." "Ignore them," Tyke waved dismissively. "Primitive species always beg when they see superior technology. It changes nothing." Through the view screen, Earth continued its lazy rotation. Tyke could see the brown and green continents, the white swirls of clouds, the deep blue oceans. Soon all of it would belong to the Vorthak Empire. The humans would serve as workers in the mines. Their cities would be rebuilt according to Vorthak design, and their resources would fuel the next expansion. "Sir," Bora called out, "surveillance drones are reporting unusual activity on the surface." Tyke frowned. "What kind of activity?" "The humans appear to be moving. Large populations are relocating from their cities. Military units are taking defensive positions. It's almost like they're preparing for war." "Preparing for war?" Tyke almost choked on his own laughter. "With what? Their metal flying machines that barely leave their atmosphere? Their chemical explosive weapons that couldn't scratch our shields?" But as he watched the tactical display, something cold began forming in Tyke's stomach. The human movements weren't random or panicked. They were organized, coordinated, strategic. "Show me their orbital defenses," he ordered. The display shifted to show Earth's immediate space. A handful of space stations, a few dozen satellites, some primitive space platforms with basic weapons. Nothing that could threaten even one of his ships, let alone 9,900. "Pathetic," Tyke muttered. "They might as well throw rocks at us." Officer Day from the weapons control station spoke up. "Admiral, should we broadcast our surrender demands?" Tyke straightened his uniform and stepped toward the main communication array. "Open a channel to the entire planet, all frequencies." The bridge fell silent as Tyke's image was transmitted to every radio, television, and communication device on Earth. His towering 7-foot frame, covered in dark scales and wearing the ceremonial armor of a Vorthak fleet commander, filled screens across the human world. "Humans of Earth," his translated voice boomed across the planet. "I am Admiral Tyke of the Vorthak Imperial Fleet. You are surrounded by the most powerful military force in galactic history. Your primitive weapons cannot harm us. Your crude ships cannot escape us. You have exactly 1 hour to broadcast your unconditional surrender. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your species." He cut the transmission and turned back to his officers. "Begin deploying the first assault wave. 2,000 ships should be more than enough to break whatever pathetic defense they attempt." As the first wave of Vorthak vessels began their descent toward Earth's atmosphere, something strange happened that made Tyke pause. Instead of mass panic, instead of chaos and fleeing populations, the humans seemed to be getting more organized. Military units were moving into position with clockwork precision. Civilian populations were evacuating to predetermined locations. Communication networks were buzzing with coordinated activity. "Lieutenant Bora," Tyke said slowly, "are you certain our intelligence reports were accurate?" Bora checked her data. Pad again. "Yes, sir. Multiple reconnaissance missions over the past year. The humans are primitive. They have no chance against us." But as Tyke watched 2,000 of his finest warships enter Earth's atmosphere, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong. The humans weren't acting like a defeated species. They were acting like predators preparing for a hunt. General Han stared at the massive holographic display showing Earth from space. 2,000 alien ships were dropping through the atmosphere, like deadly raindrops, their hulls glowing red-hot from atmospheric entry. Around him, the underground command center buzzed with activity as hundreds of military personnel coordinated humanity's first real interstellar war. "Sir, the aliens just finished their surrender broadcast," Colonel Min announced, his voice tight with controlled anger. "1-hour ultimatum, complete surrender or total destruction." Han's weathered face remained calm, but his eyes burned with determination. At 62 years old, he had spent 4 decades studying military history and strategy. He knew what the aliens didn't understand yet. Humans had been fighting wars for thousands of years. They had perfected the art of killing each other with everything from sharp sticks to nuclear weapons. These aliens were about to learn a very painful lesson. "Response?" Han asked. "Every major government has refused. The UN Security Council voted. Unanimously. We fight." The command center's main screen switched to show real-time footage from around the globe. In New York, massive artillery pieces were rising from hidden positions in Central Park. In London, the Thames had been transformed into a defensive canal system with hidden weapon platforms. In Tokyo, skyscrapers were opening like flowers to reveal surface-to-air missile batteries that had been secretly installed over the past year. "Sir," Communications Officer Park called out, "we're receiving final confirmations from all continental defense grids. Operation Homecoming is fully active." Han nodded slowly. Operation Homecoming had been humanity's secret project ever since. The first alien probe was detected at the edge of the solar system 18 months ago. Every nation on Earth had contributed. The Americans provided their advanced missile technology. The Russians shared their expertise in underground warfare. The Chinese contributed manufacturing capability. The Europeans provided electronic warfare systems. Even the smallest countries had offered something, whether it was strategic locations for hidden bases or specialized knowledge. "Show me the alien approach vectors," Han ordered. The display shifted to show the incoming alien ships. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, sleek vessels that seemed to flow through the air like liquid metal. Their plasma engines left trails of blue fire across the sky. Each ship was easily 3 times larger than humanity's biggest aircraft carriers. "They're heading for major population centers," Colonel Min observed. "New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, Beijing. Classic intimidation tactics." "Exactly what we expected," Han replied. "They want to break our spirit with a show of overwhelming force, destroy our capitals, scatter our governments, make us surrender out of fear." Lieutenant Choi from the intelligence section raised her hand. "General, our embedded observers report the alien ground forces are already preparing for landing. They seem confident this will be over quickly." Han almost smiled. Confident? That's their first mistake. The command center's speakers crackled to life as reports came in from defense positions around the world. In the Australian outback, camouflaged bunkers were powering up railguns that could punch holes through starship hulls. In the Amazon rainforest, entire trees were mechanical disguises hiding massive energy weapons reverse-engineered from captured alien technology over the past year. "Sir," Colonel Min said urgently, "the first alien ships are beginning their attack runs on major cities." "Perfect. Let them come closer." Han's voice was ice-cold. "Weapons Officer June, Are our orbital surprises ready? Captain June grinned fiercely. Yes, sir. Every piece of space junk in Earth orbit has been weaponized. Those old satellites they think are dead. They're about to come back to life in a very unfriendly way. On the main screen, the alien ships swooped down toward major cities like predatory birds. Their weapons began charging, energy building along their hulls in preparation for devastating attacks. But something was wrong. The cities below weren't panicking. Instead of fleeing civilians, the aliens were looking down at empty streets and abandoned buildings. Now, Han said quietly, the trap was sprung. From hidden positions around every major city, humanity's defense grid came online. Massive railguns that had been disguised as construction projects fired tungsten rods at incredible speeds. Laser batteries hidden in office buildings sent beams of concentrated energy slicing through alien hulls. Surface-to-air missiles launched from subway tunnels, apartment building rooftops and fake delivery trucks. But the real surprise came from orbit. Every piece of space debris around Earth suddenly came alive. Old satellites that the aliens had dismissed as harmless junk revealed themselves to be sophisticated weapons platforms. Communication satellites fired directed energy beams. Weather satellites launched kinetic kill vehicles. Even the International Space Station opened hidden weapon bays and began raining destruction down on the alien fleet. Direct hits on multiple targets, Captain June reported excitedly. The aliens are trying to pull back, but our orbital weapons have them trapped in a kill zone. General Han watched as the first alien ships began falling from the sky, their elegant hulls torn open by human weapons. But he knew this was only the beginning. The aliens had sent 2,000 ships in this first wave. They still had nearly 8,000 more waiting in orbit. Damage report on their forces? He asked. Preliminary estimates suggest we've destroyed or damaged 300 alien vessels in the first exchange, Colonel Min replied. But sir, they're adapting quickly. Their remaining ships are changing tactics. Han nodded grimly. Good. Let them adapt. Every time they change their approach, they'll learn something new about how humans fight. And each lesson is going to cost them more ships. The real war was just beginning. Admiral Tyke's claws scraped against the metal console as he gripped it tighter. The holographic battle display in front of him showed a nightmare he couldn't have imagined 6 hours ago. Red dots representing his destroyed ships filled the screen like drops of blood. 800 vessels, 800 of his finest warships reduced to burning wreckage scattered across Earth's surface. This is impossible, he growled, his scaled face twisting with rage and confusion. These humans are supposed to be primitives. How are they destroying my fleet? Lieutenant Bora stood beside him, her blue skin pale with shock. Her hands trembled as she read from her datapad. Sir, the reports from our ground commanders are disturbing. The humans aren't fighting like any species we've encountered before. Explain. Tyke demanded. They've turned their entire planet into a weapon, sir. Every city, every building, every street has become a trap. Captain Nari reports that what looked like empty buildings were actually filled with hidden soldiers. The humans evacuated their civilians, then turned their cities into giant mazes designed to kill our forces. On the main screen, live footage from the surface showed exactly what Bora meant. Vorthak assault troops were advancing through what had appeared to be an abandoned human city. The streets seemed empty, the buildings quiet. Then suddenly, explosions erupted from every direction. Human soldiers emerged from sewers, dropped from rooftops, and attacked from hidden tunnels. The Vorthak forces, trained for open battlefield combat, were being slaughtered in urban warfare they had never experienced. And that's not the worst part, Bora continued, her voice barely above a whisper. The humans are using our own technology against us. They're somehow hacking into our ship systems within minutes of capturing any equipment. Tyke watched in horror as one of his destroyers suddenly turned its weapons on the rest of his fleet. The ship's communication systems crackled to life, and a human voice spoke in broken but understandable Vorthak language. Hello, alien friends. Thank you for the new ship. We're borrowing it for a while. The captured destroyer fired its plasma cannons at 2 nearby Vorthak cruisers, tearing through their shields like paper. Tyke's bridge crew watched in stunned silence as their own vessel was used to destroy their comrades. How are they doing? This? Tyke roared. Our computer systems are encrypted with quantum-level security. Communications Officer Sung looked up from his station, his face green with nausea. "Sir, intelligence reports suggest the humans have been studying our technology for over a year. They apparently captured one of our reconnaissance probes and reverse-engineered everything." The tactical display updated with new information from the ground. Captain Nari's voice came through the speakers, filled with panic and disbelief. "Admiral, requesting immediate evacuation. My forces are being decimated. The human civilians, they're not running away. They're fighting us." "Civilians?" Tyke couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Their non-military population is engaging our trained soldiers?" "Yes, sir. They're using farming machines as weapons, construction equipment as tanks. One of their females just took down 3 of my warriors with some kind of modified mining device." Down on Earth's surface, Engineer Hyun was indeed proving Captain Nari's point. She crouched behind an overturned car, adjusting the power settings on what had been an industrial mining laser just that morning. Now it was a devastating anti-aircraft weapon that had already brought down 2 Vorthak dropships. "Jay, can you see the next wave coming in?" she called to her neighbor, a former construction worker who had converted his excavator into an improvised tank. 3 more dropships coming from the east," Jay replied, swiveling his machine gun that had been welded to the excavator's arm. "They're heading for the school. Not if I can help it." Hyun aimed her modified laser at the lead dropship and fired. The beam of concentrated energy sliced through the alien vessel's hull like a hot knife through butter. The ship spiraled out of control and crashed into an empty field, exploding in a ball of green fire. Around them, dozens of other civilians were fighting with improvised weapons. A group of farmers had converted their crop dusters into attack aircraft, dropping homemade explosives on alien positions. Retired factory workers were using industrial robots as combat mechs. Even teenagers were contributing, using their knowledge of video games to pilot captured alien drones. Back on his flagship, Admiral Tyke received another devastating report. "Sir," Officer Day announced, "our orbital bombardment platforms are being targeted by the humans' space debris weapons. They've somehow turned their space junk into a defensive network." Tyke watched as his massive bombardment ships were swarmed by tiny objects that had appeared harmless. Old satellites, discarded rocket parts, and abandoned space stations were all revealing hidden weapons and attacking his fleet. A communications satellite fired a concentrated microwave beam that fried the electronics on one of his cruisers. An old space probe launched a swarm of micro-missiles that overwhelmed another ship's defenses. "They planned this," Take realized with growing horror. "This entire system is a trap. They've been preparing for us." The truth was even worse than Tyke imagined. For over a year, every nation on Earth had been secretly working together. Military strategists had studied every recorded battle in human history, from ancient warfare to modern conflicts. Engineers had worked around the clock to weaponize everything from farming equipment to space debris. Ordinary citizens had been trained in guerrilla warfare tactics. "Admiral," Lieutenant Bora's voice was barely audible, "we're receiving surrender requests from 12 of our ground commanders. They're asking permission to retreat." Tyke stared at the tactical display. His invasion force was being destroyed by a species he had dismissed as primitives. These humans weren't just fighting back, they were winning. They had turned their entire world into a weapon and were using his own technology against him. "Sir," Communications Officer Sung called out urgently. "Incoming transmission from the human military commander." The main screen flickered, and General Han's face appeared. The human looked tired but determined, his eyes hard as steel. "Admiral Tech," Han said calmly, "you came here expecting an easy victory. You thought we were weak because we don't have your advanced technology. But you made one critical mistake. You underestimated what humans will do to protect their home." The transmission ended, leaving Tyek staring at a blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew watched in silence as more red dots appeared on the tactical display. More ships destroyed. More lives lost. The meat grinder was just getting started. Dr. Jin wiped sweat from her forehead as she crawled deeper into the alien ship's engine compartment. The Vorthak vessel had crashed in a rice field outside Seoul 12 hours ago, and her team had been working non-stop to understand its systems. Sparks flew from damaged circuits as she carefully connected human-made devices to alien technology. "Pass me the quantum interface," she called to her assistant, Dr. Kang, who was squeezed into the narrow space beside her. "And be careful with those power cables. One wrong move and we'll both be fried." The captured ship was a marvel of engineering. Its walls seemed to pulse with living energy, and the control systems responded to thought as much as touch. But Dr. Jin had spent her entire career reverse engineering impossible technology. If anyone could turn this alien warship into a weapon for humanity, it was her. Captain Wu's voice echoed through the ship's corridors as he coordinated the security team outside. "Dr. Jin, we've got more Vorthak forces heading this way." "How much longer do you need?" 12 hours minimum," Jin shouted back, her hands deep in a tangle of alien circuits. "These systems are incredibly complex, but I think I understand how they work. The power core doesn't just provide energy, it's actually a quantum computer that controls everything from weapons to life support." She pulled out a device that looked like a metallic spider and carefully attached it to the ship's main processing unit. The human-built quantum hacker began interfacing with the alien systems, slowly breaking through layers of security that had taken the Vorthak centuries to develop. "Got it!" Jin exclaimed as the ship's lights flickered and changed from red to blue. "The navigation system is ours. Weapons control should follow in about 6 hours." High above Earth's atmosphere, Admiral Tyke was experiencing his own nightmare. The tactical display showed something that should have been impossible. 17 of his own ships were now firing on his fleet, their weapon systems completely. "Thunder human control. How are they doing this?" he screamed at his bridge crew. "Our ships have quantum encryption. It should be impossible for primitives to hack our technology." Lieutenant Bora's voice was hollow with shock. "Sir, intelligence reports suggest the humans have been preparing for this invasion for over a year. They captured one of our scout ships and have been studying our technology ever since." On the main screen, Tyke watched one of his most powerful battle cruisers, now flying under human control, destroy 2 of his remaining destroyers with surgical precision. The human pilots weren't just using Vorthak weapons, they were using them better than his own trained crews. "Sir, communications." Officer Sung announced, "We're receiving a transmission from the captured battle cruiser." The screen flickered, and a young human woman appeared. She was sitting in the ship's command chair, looking completely comfortable with the alien technology around her. "Hello, Admiral Take," Captain Park said with a slight smile. "Thank you for the upgrade. This ship is much better than anything we humans have built. We're going to take very good care of it." Behind her, Tyke could see human technicians working alongside the ship's original crew, who appeared to be cooperating willingly. The Vorthak soldiers weren't prisoners, they were actually helping the humans operate their own vessel. "Your crew, for betraying their own species," Tyke roared. Captain Park shook her head. "Actually, they're not. Turns out your soldiers don't really want to be here. When we explained that we just wanted to defend our home, most of them decided they'd rather help us than die for your empire." The transmission ended, leaving Tyek staring at a tactical situation that was rapidly becoming hopeless. But the space battle was only part of his problems. Reports from the surface were even worse. Sergeant Lee's voice crackled over the radio from somewhere in the Amazon rainforest. "Command, this is Ground Team 7. The aliens are completely unprepared for Earth's environments. Their armor is designed for controlled atmospheric conditions, not jungle humidity or desert heat." In the thick vegetation of the Amazon, Lee watched through his binoculars as a squad of Vorthak soldiers stumbled through the undergrowth. Their advanced armor, which worked perfectly in space or on their home planet, was overheating in Earth's tropical climate. Several aliens had already collapsed from heat exhaustion. "Their cooling systems can't handle our weather," Lee reported to his command post. "The ones in the Sahara are even worse off. The desert heat is literally cooking them inside their own suits." From the Arctic, another report came in from Lieutenant Kim. "The cold weather teams are having the opposite problem. These aliens are reptilian. They can't function in temperatures below freezing. Half of them are going into some kind of hibernation state." But it wasn't just Earth's climate that was defeating the Vorthak forces. Human ingenuity was turning every aspect of the planet into a weapon. In the Australian outback, Aboriginal Trackers were leading alien patrols in circles until they ran out of supplies. In the Himalayas, Sherpa guides were using their knowledge of high-altitude survival to trap alien forces in impossible mountain passes. Dr. Jin's voice came over the radio with excitement. "Command, this is Engineering Team Alpha. We've successfully converted 3 more Vorthak ships. The aliens' own technology is now fighting against them." The tide of battle was indeed turning. What had started as an invasion of Earth was becoming a disaster for the Vorthak Empire. Their advanced technology, which had conquered dozens of worlds, was being turned against them by a species they had dismissed as primitive. In space, human-controlled Vorthak ships were systematically destroying what remained of Tyke's fleet. On the surface, Earth's diverse environments were defeating alien ground forces that had never encountered such extreme conditions. Underground, human engineers were hacking into every piece of Vorthak technology they could find. "Sir," Lieutenant Bora said quietly, "perhaps we should consider retreat." Admiral Tyke looked at the tactical display one more time. Of his original 9,900 ships, less than 3,000 remained. Half of those were damaged or running low on supplies. His ground forces were either surrendering, being defeated by Earth's climate, or joining the human defenders. "Retreat." Tyke's voice was barely a whisper. "The Vorthak Empire has never retreated from primitives, but as another group of his ships exploded under fire from human-controlled Vorthak vessels, Tyke realized that these humans were anything but primitive. They were the most dangerous species he had ever encountered, and Earth was becoming the graveyard of his empire. The invasion was failing, and Admiral Tyke knew it. Admiral Tyke's scaled hands shook uncontrollably as he stared at the emergency transmission device. The bridge around him looked like a war zone. Blast marks scarred the walls where human weapons had found their targets. Half the control stations were dark and dead. The proud command center of his flagship now felt more like a tomb than the heart of a mighty warship. Through the cracked viewscreen, he could see the 17 battered vessels that remained of his once mighty fleet. Ships that had been the pride of the Vorthak Empire now limped through space like wounded animals. Their hulls were torn open, their weapons systems destroyed, their crews either dead or broken in spirit. "Communications Officer Yun," Tyke called to one of the few surviving members of his bridge crew. "Open an emergency channel to High Command, maximum encryption." Officer Yun, her blue skin marked with burns from a human plasma weapon, worked frantically at her damaged console. "Channel open, Admiral. They're demanding a full status report." Tyke closed his yellow eyes for a moment, trying to find the words to explain the impossible disaster that had befallen his forces. How could he tell the Vorthak High Command that their unstoppable armada had been defeated by primitives? How could he admit that 50 million of their finest warriors were now dead, captured, or worse, fighting for the enemy? "High Command," he began, his voice cracking with exhaustion and defeat. "This is Admiral Tyke, commander of the former Sol System invasion fleet. I am transmitting emergency coordinates. Mark the Sol System as absolutely forbidden territory. Do not send scouts, do not send diplomats, do not even think about this place." The response from High Command came immediately, filled with confusion and anger. "Admiral Tyke, explain your status. Our sensors show massive fleet losses. What is your current situation?" Tyke looked around his destroyed bridge at the faces of his surviving crew members. They had been the best soldiers in the galaxy just days ago. Now they looked like survivors of some cosmic nightmare, their eyes hollow with the memory of humanity's terrifying resistance. "The invasion has failed," Tyke said simply. "Complete failure. Of 9,900 ships, only 17 remain. Of 50 million troops, less than 100,000 survive, and most of those have either surrendered to the humans or joined their cause." Silence filled the communication channel. Finally, High Command responded with disbelief. "That is impossible. Our intelligence reports indicated the humans were primitive. They possess no advanced weapons, no energy shields, no interstellar technology." "Your intelligence reports were wrong," Tyke replied, his voice growing stronger with bitter knowledge. "The humans are not primitive. They are the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and we have made the fatal mistake of awakening them to our existence." Officer Yun handed him a datapad showing the final casualty reports. The numbers were staggering. Entire battle groups had been wiped out, thousands of ships destroyed or captured. Ground forces that had conquered a dozen worlds were now scattered across Earth's surface, either dead or serving as prisoners of war. Explain how primitives defeated the greatest military force in Vorthak history, High Command demanded. Tyke laughed, a harsh sound that made his surviving crew members flinch. Primitives? These creatures have been perfecting the art of warfare for thousands of years. They turned their entire planet into a weapon. They hacked our technology within. Hours of capturing it. They used our own ships against us. They fought with everything from farming equipment to space debris. On the tactical display, Tyke could see human-controlled Vorthak vessels still patrolling Earth's orbital space. Ships that had been built in Vorthak shipyards were now flying. Under human command, their weapons pointed outward toward the stars. The humans weren't just defending their world anymore. They were preparing to take the fight to other systems. But the worst part, Tyke continued, is that they never stopped innovating. Every time we adapted to their tactics, they developed new ones. Every piece of our technology they captured, they improved. By the end, they were using our own weapons better than we were. Communications Officer Yun looked up from her station with fear in her eyes. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's addressed to High Command. Put it through, Tyke said with resignation. The view screen flickered, and General Han appeared sitting calmly in what looked like a human command center. Behind him, Tyke could see human technicians working alongside captured Vorthak equipment, integrating alien technology with human systems. Vorthak High Command, Han said in perfect Vorthak language. This is General Han of Earth Defense Forces. Your invasion has failed. Your admiral is departing with the survivors, and we suggest you listen very carefully to what he tells you. Han leaned forward, his eyes hard as steel. We did not start this war, but we have finished it. We now possess your technology, we understand your tactics, and we know the location of your home systems. We have no desire to conquer other worlds, but if you ever threaten Earth again, we will bring this fight to your doorstep. The transmission ended, leaving Tyke's bridge in stunned silence. High Command's voice crackled through the speakers, demanding explanations, threatening court-martials, ordering immediate counterattacks. There will be no counterattacks, Tyke said quietly, cutting off the transmission. Officer Yun, set course for home. Maximum speed. As the 17 surviving ships of the Vorthak Armada began their long journey back to Empire space, Tyke made one final log entry. His voice was hollow but clear as he spoke into the recorder. Personal log, Admiral Tyke. Final entry. We came to Earth expecting to conquer primitives. Instead, we found apex predators disguised as a peaceful species. The humans do not fight. Like any other race in the galaxy, they fight like creatures who have spent their entire evolutionary history learning how to kill each other, and they are very, very good at it. He paused, looking out at the stars ahead. I pray to the ancient gods that the High Command heeds my warning. The humans are awake now. They know they are not alone in the universe, and if we are foolish enough to threaten them again, I believe they will hunt us across the galaxy until every last Vorthak is dead. Behind them, Earth continued its peaceful rotation, its blue oceans and green continents hiding the fact that it was now the most dangerous planet in known space. The humans had not only survived first contact with a hostile alien species, they had utterly destroyed them. The galaxy would never be the same again. And somewhere in the depths of space, other civilizations were about to learn that there was a new apex predator among the stars, one that called itself humanity. The end